What's up guys, welcome to vizxlization. Nestor Adrianzen here again. Today I'm gonna show you how to enrich your Power BI reports by using conditional formatting in Power BI. So, before we get started, if this is the first time that you stop by this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notifications on my new Power BI content. So now, are you ready? Let's go. So real quick, I'm gonna give you guys more background. So I already worked on a tutorial about conditional formatting. So you can take a look at the tutorial. I'm gonna share with you the link, but this is the second part. So let's take a look at the agenda real quick and let's see what we have, okay? 5 different points. The first one here is about color by rules for percentages. I've seen this question a lot, so I decided to create this tutorial to answer those questions. Second point here is about color based on a calculation. This is also a good question that I would like to solve. And then next point is about conditional formatting for totals and subtotals. I have also seen questions about that. The next point here is about format as web URLs. Also, I've seen questions about that. And finally, guys, we're going to learn about color code based on text. Let's do this. First point here, color by rules for percentages. If you guys have been following my tutorials for a while, you know that I like to have some type of theory here, right, before we go into the case. So that's what we have here. So for this point, if the field the formatting is based on contains percentages, just write the numbers in the rules as decimals. Really important, guys. Also select number instead of percent. So here we have a couple of examples. You can see what's going on. If we want to represent 2%, basically we need to type 0.02, 25%, 0.25, 100%, it should be just 1. So we will see an example here, so please stay tuned. Point number 2, let's learn about color based on a calculation. So here for this particular point, you can create a calculation that outputs different values based on business logic conditions you select. So in other words, we can create a measure here and then we can apply conditional formatting based on that measure. And for this particular case, I have this measure called hex calculation, and this is based on nested if functions, right? And the conditions are 4 different conditions. Just to give an idea, just to give an example here, the first one, we are saying if profits is greater or equal to 3.5 million, please give us this hex code value, right? So that's what we have here. I'm going to share with you guys a link as well to a website where you can find hex code values. So very, very helpful, okay? So now guys, let's move on to the next point. Point number 3, how to apply conditional formatting to totals and subtotals. This is quite straightforward, my friends. You can apply conditional formatting rules to totals and subtotals for both table and matrix visuals, like you're seeing right here. So we have these conditions right here. Basically, we need to select values and totals. That's it. So we also have a case, so please stay tuned. Next point here is about format as web URLs. Here, if you have a column or measure that contains website URLs, you can use conditional formatting to apply those URLs to fields as active links. As you can see right here, we have a table here, 4 different columns: country, area, transaction, and link. So what's happening here is that country, the name of the country is actually a active link. So if you click right there on the list, for example, it takes you automatically to this link right here, to the web. Okay, so we have an example about that as well. So this is very, very helpful. Okay, so now guys, let's move on to the next and final point. Okay, so color code based on text. This is a really, really nice skill to have, my friends. So the question that we have here is, how do you color code text values in Power BI? The answer is also quite straightforward here. We can create measures related to those values and then apply conditional formatting. So basically, this is an idea about the final table that we want to see, right? We have two different columns here, country and transaction, and then for transaction we are giving conditional formatting, right? If it's accepted, the background is blue. If it's none, it's gray. If it's declined, it's red. And also we know that the text should be white. So now that you have this as a reference, let's take a look at the case, my friends. So now guys, we have a question for each point that we just described. First question here is apply conditional formatting to percentage of total profits. And here are the conditions, right? If it's greater and equal to 0%, it should be red. If it's greater or equal to 5%, it should be light green. If it's greater or equal to 10%, it should be dark green. And finally, if it's greater or equal to 20%, it should be blue. So please keep this in mind, guys, because we're going to be solving those questions, okay? And then we have also the next question, apply conditional formatting based on a calculation, and we also have the conditions there. We will get there, okay? So the third question here, apply conditional formatting to totals and subtotals. This is actually quite straightforward. It depends on the second question here. So we will get there, okay? Next question, create country names as live links to their websites. We can solve that question as well. And finally, guys, apply conditional formatting to text values. And here are the conditions. So now the question that I have for you is, are you ready? Let's do this, guys. Let's go to Power BI Desktop. Alright guys, here we are in Power BI Desktop, and before we get started, let's take a look at the tables and also the measures that we have already in this model. Okay, so real quick, we have three different measures here. We have percentage of total profits, it's right there. So I'm not gonna go into the details here, but you can take a look at it, okay? And we also have another measure called hex calculation. So this measure is basically the same example that I provided a few minutes ago. So like I said before, here we have four different if functions, right? And then here are the conditions. So real quick, the hex code values, this is very important if you want to have a specific color. So really an accurate color. So these hex code values are coming from this website, okay? I'm going to show you the website right now. This website right here. So this is a free resource, my friends. Let's say that you want to select green, for example, it automatically changes, right? So you can basically select this hex code value, copy into Power BI Desktop. So that's what I did, and you can take a look at this as well. So now let's go back to Power BI Desktop and let's keep playing, my friends. So the next measure that we have here is profits. Here we are basically summing profits, right? So that's what it means, okay? So what else do we have here? We have a table called countries. So this is a table that I created, 4 different columns. So we're gonna use that information to apply conditional formatting as well. And we also have here a calendar table. We're not gonna be using this calendar table, but it's just there for the model, okay? And finally, guys, we also have this financials table. This is the table that Microsoft provides. No more talking, guys, and let's start solving this question, okay? First question, if you remember, we need to apply conditional formatting to percentages. So the first thing that we want to do here is select the matrix, okay? We selected the matrix here, and then let's go to this measure and then select conditional formatting font color. So once we are here, so we're going to select the format style, okay? For this particular case, we want to use rules, okay? And here you go. So what are the rules? Remember that? So the rules are the following. If the value, if percentage of total profits is greater or equal to 0, remember, this should be number, okay? So the other limit here should be less than 5%. Remember that? So we need to put right here 1.05. And this should be number as well, okay? What was the color here? Red. So we can select any red if we want, okay? So remember, this is just an example here. Let's select this red. There you go. So the next rule here is the following. So if the value is greater or equal to 0.05, right? It should be number as well. And then what is the other limit? Remember that? Less than 10%, 0.1, okay? This should be number as well. So what is the color here? This should be light green. All right, so let's do that, and that's it. So the next rule here is something very similar, my friends. So this should be greater or equal to 10%, 0.1 basically here, and this should be number. Remember that? Should be number here, and then the other limit should be 20%. For this particular case, 0.2, number. Remember the color here, dark green. All right. So, and finally, guys, if it's greater or equal to 20%, it should be blue. So let's do that. 0.2, this should be number. Remember that? And for this particular case, we can put 100% or just max. So let's put just max, okay? And then here we need to select blue because those were the conditions, okay? So apparently this is good to go, and let's hit OK. All right, my friends, there you go. See, it's working. So perfect, good to go. So now, guys, let's solve the next question. So this is what we have. Here we have a matrix as well. The same thing here. So let's go to values, profits, okay? So we're gonna apply here the following, conditional formatting again. So this should be background color, and here you go. This is the fun part, my friends. Field value, and now we need to use the measure. Remember that? And we're gonna use here hex calculation. Let's hit OK, and let's see what happens. Boom! There you go, my friends. See right there? You are seeing different colors, right? The background is different based on the specific condition. So if you want to take a look at the condition, you can take a look at the measure right here. Okay, let's go back to the measure real quick. Here are the conditions, right? So that's what's happening. So we are done with the second question. Let's move on to the next one. So this is quite straightforward as well. We need to apply conditional formatting to totals and subtotals. Let's select the matrix here again. We're going to do the same thing, okay? Go to profits here, conditional formatting, background color, and then right here we need to select field value. Let's select the measure here, hex calculation, and here you go, my friends. Apply to. Let's click on this option right here, and here are the values. So we need to select values and totals, okay? Once we select that, let's hit OK, and let's see what happens. Check this out, my friends. Boom! There you go. And of course, you can adapt this code based on your business requirements. So there you have it. So now let's move on to the next question. URL. Okay, so this is a good one as well. Here we have 4 different columns: country, area, transaction, and link. So what's our goal here? So our goal here is to have country names as live links to their websites. So we're gonna do that. This is quite straightforward. This is how we do that. Let's select right here this table. Now let's go to country, okay? Conditional formatting here. Guess what? We're gonna select web URL. Let's do that, and let's see what happens. There you go. Value here is fine. So what we're gonna do next here is to select the URL link. So let's go to countries here and let's select the link. Check this out, my friends. Let's hit OK. Boom. So now you can see that this name is a live link to its website. All right, so let's double check that. So let's hit release real quick and let's see what happens. Check this out. There you go, my friends. It automatically takes you to its website. So let's take a look at another country just for the exercise, okay? So how about the United States? Let's do that. Check this out. Boom. The United States is there. So now you can read it. You can do whatever you want here. So what else do we have? How about another country? How about Mexico? Boom. There you have it. So it's working totally fine, my friends. This is quite straightforward and very useful as well. So we are almost done with this tutorial. And now let's take a look at the final question. Color code based on text. So here, my friends, we're gonna create a measure, okay? So let's do this real quick. So right click, new measure. All right. So we're gonna call this measure transaction status background, okay? So here we're gonna use variables. If you're not familiar with variables, I'm gonna share with you guys a link so you can take a look at that tutorial as well. So here, the name of the variable is gonna be transaction type. Okay, there you go. Here we want to use a function called select value. Okay, select value is right there. Here we want to reference the column called transaction from the countries table. Okay, transaction from the countries table is right there. Let's select that. And now, so we're going to use return here. And here we're going to use also a new function called switch. Some of you might be familiar with this function. If you're not familiar, I'm going to share a link to a new tutorial as well. Okay. All right. So here we're going to use true. And now, guys, we're going to use transaction here. The variable that we just created, transaction type. Okay. So what are the conditions here? So the conditions here are the following, right? So if it's accepted, okay, remember this is text, so we need to apply quotation marks there. If it's accepted, so the background should be blue. So there you go, blue, comma here, and then we're gonna use variable as well. So the same variable here. So if it's decline, remember that. What happens? This should be red, okay? It should be red. There you go. So the same thing here, transaction type. If it's known, remember that. If it's known, what is the background here? Should be gray. All right, so once we have that, close parentheses for switch, and then let's approve the changes, my friends. Boom! Seems like it's working, guys. So let's give it a try. So what's going on here? So the idea here is to have this column, right? The transaction column. We need to apply conditional formatting to this text. If it's accepted, it should be blue, the background. If it's known, it should be gray. If it's declined, it should be red. The background should be red. Okay, so let's do that real quick. Let's select the table here. Let's go to transaction and let's apply conditional formatting. Background color. Okay, same strategy here, field value, and we're gonna use this measure, the new measure that we just created. Okay, transaction status background. So let's see what happens. Let's hit OK. Check this out, my friends. Boom. So what is another observation here, right? So we know that the background is working fine, but the text, it's hard to read, right? we can apply the font color should be white. We can do that as well. In order to do that, we're gonna create a new measure, and we're gonna use as a reference the measure that we just created. Okay, check this out. We're gonna copy this. Okay, right click here, new measure. Control V, there you go. And we're gonna change the name of this new measure. So we're gonna call this transaction status text. How about that? So why are we doing this? So we wanna create a new measure to apply conditional formatting for the text, for the font. We need to apply a different color, right? For the font, it should be white. So basically we need to replace these colors for white. That's it. Check this out. Alright, so it's working, guys. Check this out. Let's copy this table real quick, Control C, and then Control V. And now, guys, let's apply conditional formatting here again. So let's go to transaction, and we know for sure we already have a conditional formatting applied for the background, right? So now we need to apply another conditional formatting for font color. Let's do that. Check this out, my friends. Same thing here. Transaction, DAX measure, and then we need to select the measure that we just created, which is transaction status text. Let's do that, and let's hit OK, and let's see what happens. Boom! There it is. So now, guys, this is more readable, right? So the idea is to have a nice, good-looking Power BI report. Alright guys, that was it. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If so, as always, please give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, and of course don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss anything. Thank you guys, and see you in my next tutorial.